I'm honored to be with you today for your commencement from one of the finest universities in the world. Truth be told, I never graduated from college, and this is the closest I've ever gotten to college graduation. Today, I want to tell you three stories from my life. That's no big deal, just three stories. The first story is about connecting the dots. I dropped out of college after the first 6 months, but then stayed around as a dropping for another 18 months or so before I really quit. So why did I drop out? It started before I was born. My biological mother was a young unmarried college graduate, so everything was all set for me to be adopted at birth by a lawyer and his wife. Except that when I popped out, they decided at the last minute that they really wanted a girl. So my parents who were on a waiting list got a call in the middle of the night asking, "We've got an unexpected baby boy. Do you want him?" They said, "Of course." My biological mother found out later that my mother had never graduated from college and that my father had never graduated from high school. She refused to sign the final adoption papers. She only relented a few months later when my parents promised that I would go to college. This was the start in my life. And 17 years later, I got to college, but I naively chose a college that was almost as expensive as Stanford, and all of my working class parents' savings were being spent on my college tuition. I didn't know what to do for. I don't know what to. I don't know what I wanted to do with my life. I don't know what I. I don't know what I wanted to do with my life, and uh, I have no idea what I wanted to do with my life, and no idea how college was going to help me figure it out. And here I was, and here I was, and here I was spending all of the money my parents had saved their entire life. So I decided to drop out and trust that it would all work out okay. It was pretty scary at the time, but looking back, it was one of the best decisions I ever made. The minute I dropped out, I could stop taking the required classes that didn't interest me and dropping in on the ones that looked interesting. It wasn't all romantic. I didn't have a dorm room, so I slept on the floor and in friends' rooms. I returned Coke bottles for the 5-cent deposit to buy food with. And I would walk the 7 miles across town every Sunday night to get one good meal a week at the Hare Krishna temple. I loved it. And much of what I stumbled into by following my curiosity and intuition turned out to be priceless later on. Let me give you one example. Reed College at the time of Purple has the best calligraphy instruction in the country. Throughout the campus, every poster, every label, and every drawer was beautifully hand calligraphed. Because I had dropped out and didn't have to take the normal classes, I decided to take a calligraphy class to learn how to do this. Because I had dropped out and didn't have to take the normal class, I decided to take a calligraphy class to learn how to do this. I learned about serif and sans serif typefaces, about bearing the amount of difference. I learned about serif and sans serif typefaces, about bounding the amount of space between different letter combinations, about what makes great typography great. It was beautiful, historical, artistically subtle in a way that science can capture, and I found it fascinating. None of this had even a half of any practical application in my life, but 10 years later, when we were designing the first Macintosh computer, it all came back to me. When we designed it on Intermac, it was the first computer with the beautiful typography. If I had never dropped If I had never dropped it on the single class in college, the Mac would have never had multiple typefaces or proportionally spaced fonts. And since Windows just copied a Mac, it's likely that no personal computer would have them. It's likely no would have them. And if I had never dropped out, if I had never dropped out, I would have never dropped in the calligraphy class, and no personal computer and personal computer might not have the wonderful typography that they do. Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college, but it was very, very clear looking backwards 10 years later. Again, you can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Because believing that the dots will somehow connect in your future will give you the confidence to follow your heart even when it leads you off the wrong path, and that will make all the difference. 쉽지 않아요. 여기까지 첫 번째 스토리 외운 거고요. 그래도 벌써 네 번째 페이지까지 외웠으니까, 외운 건 아니고 외우기를 시도했으니까 거기에 의의를 둡니다. 출력하는 과정이 생각보다 고통스러워요. 왜냐면은 자꾸 틀리고 외워도 까먹는 자신을 마주해야 되기 때문에 쉽지 않은 과정인데, 이 과정이 반드시 필요하다고 생각을 하고요. 이제까지 저는 좀 출력적인 사고를 너무 등한시하지 않았나, 그냥 읽는 것에만 집중하지 않았나, 읽으면서 그냥 자기 만족을 하지 않았나 하는 생각 때문에 힘들더라도 이런 과정을 좀 기록을 하려고요. 기록을 하고 이거를 계속 반복하고 지속적으로 하다 보면은 지금보다는 훨씬 나을 테니까, 최종적으로는 통암기도 가능할 것 같아요. 벌써 12페이지 중에 4페이지는 대략적으로 미약 하나마 외울 수 있을, 시도는 해봤으니까. 아무튼 그런 상황입니다. 통암기 가능한 그날까지.